Welcome back. Welcome to Brett Breaks Things here on a Wednesday. It is Wednesday. We're already halfway through the week. It's crazy. I had a ton of fun, honestly, getting into the Alaska meeting and then the meeting with the EU leaders with you guys. I think some important context was brought to light. And I think, not just my audience, but a lot of people are seeing that whole exchange between Trump and Putin's meeting and Trump with Zelensky and the EU leaders. I think we're all seeing it on a macro level for what it is. Putin is getting over on Trump once again. The Ukrainian people are not safe. It is basically give up the Donbass or give up your country for Zelensky right now. And I think we shaped it in an appropriate light as well. So it was my pleasure to do so, but we're going to move on for just a little while from the geopolitics real quick. And we're going to focus back here at home. We talk about authoritarianism on this show, and we don't just talk about it, okay? Authoritarianism is a term that has been applied to Trump and his administration and his philosophy on how to run a country. It's been applied to him for a while now. It's been applied to him way before me by people way more intelligent than me. And the theme is continuing. And why? Why? Why does the left cry about authoritarianism so much? It's not just the left now. It's not just the left who's afraid, because the signs are tangible. A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people outside our borders are afraid. There's the overarching examples, like Trump settling up to dictators himself, admiring them. They're very bigly, strongly, great leaders. That's alarming. That's alarming, but that's an optics thing. You've got his trade war, a trade war that he did unilaterally by executive order, attacking countries that are our allies, our greatest economic partners. But those are getting fought in the courts. Those are temporary. Then you've got other examples like federal troops in cities. The immigration policy, I'm trying to be judicious here. The immigration policy he's currently on course with. Those are being fought in the courts. The immigration policy is going to cost him votes, votes across the brown spectrum. For every shade of brown, he is going to cost himself that vote. It's really going to cost him. They're going to have to back off. There just is not as many criminals, rapists, predators as they anticipated. This will ebb eventually. It's the other forms of authoritarianism that we're going to get into today. And I got a lot to get into. It's the other forms, the sneakier stuff, the stuff that doesn't exactly elicit huge protests from giant crowds, the stuff that flies a little under the radar but has been brewing for a while. So first we're going to focus on the Smithsonian. We talked about it real briefly when it broke that he was going to fiddle. The Smithsonian came right squarely in his crosshairs. And we are now seeing it in action. It's not just the Smithsonian. History, education, social policy. These are other forms of authoritarian control that Trump is trying to exert. And he's not just trying. He and his cohorts are succeeding.
Professor Gordon Reed, as we mentioned, the president said his post that everything discussed is, quote, how bad slavery was, how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. I was struck by that line. I'm wondering what your reaction is.
Well, I've been to the museum, and it's exactly the opposite of that. It's much more like the way he described it in 2017. It is very inspirational. It talks about slavery, but it talks about American progress, doing things to make the promise of the Declaration of Independence become real. So it's not a place that I recognize in the way he describes it in that post. Well, the danger is that you get an incomplete picture of what happened in the country if you can't learn from history, if you don't know what actually happened. So it's a way of keeping people ignorant of the past, and that's not what historians try to do. The opposite of that, to bring what we know to the fore, and that's what Americans want.
Okay, we're going to let Annette Gordon Reed fire the first calm, measured, intelligent shot. as I ramp this up as the show goes on, because I'm not going to be as measured as she was. But she's absolutely right. You want to hear what he said? He said the museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smith... Don't make me laugh. I know. Like, you read it, I read it, we printed it out, I highlighted it, and it still is laughable. The Smithsonian is out of control, where... Listen to this part. This part is interesting. Where everything discussed is how horrible our country is and how bad slavery was and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Excuse me? How unaccomplished the downtrodden have been? That is the type of thing somebody who is so disconnected from American values, true American values, says. That's what somebody that is completely disconnected with the values and what's important to people, especially concerning our history, things that their ancestors struggled for or against. How disconnected do you have to be to today's minority to say unaccomplished the downtrodden have been? He continues. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about future. We're not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities where tremendous progress has been made. This country cannot be woke because woke is broke. Great job, Don. You made a rhyme. Well done, Donnie. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums. Let me say that last part again. I'm sorry. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums. So if we have the hottest country in the world right now, why would our museums say anything about right now? Like, they're museums. They deal with the past. History. You're talking about we're the hottest right now. That is the antithesis of what museums deal with. Mr. Trump made comments all week. Okay, he told the Smithsonian that its museums would be required to adjust any content that the administration finds problematic in tone, historical framing, and alignment with American ideals. And that has to be done within 120 days. Douglas Brinkley, a presidential historian, had something to say about this. I'm not going to go into a ton of quotes on this. It's the epitome of dumbness to criticize the Smithsonian for dealing with the reality of slavery in America. It's what led to our Civil War and is a defining aspect of our national history. And the Smithsonian deals in a robust way with what slavery was, but it also deals with human rights and civil rights in equal abundance. But look, guys, we're not necessarily, look, you can think Don's a racist all you want. You can think Don's a racist all you want, but the important thing is racists think Don is racist. He at least thinks that he's an ally. They at least think that Don's got their best interest in heart. I mean, he has attacked the Tuskegee Airmen, trying to wipe them from history. Harriet Tubman, he tried to wipe from history. And don't forget, just this year, on Juneteenth, he said there's too many non-working holidays. He's also trying to bring back a slew of Confederate statues and memorials. What's that? What's up, big dog?
Hey, what's going on? No, I was also going to say, don't forget about the military bases that he changed back for the Confederacy.
How can we forget, Scott?
I mean, what kind of history are we teaching here?
Well, that's the question, Scotty, and that's what we're doing here today. What kind of history are we teaching? What type of history do they want to teach? Because this war on education, educating our kids on what happened in this country, continues all over the place, especially in Oklahoma. Do you remember? We talked about a guy named Ryan Walters. He is the superintendent of public instruction in Oklahoma. Do you remember that name, Ryan Walters? I'll give you a second. If you came up with, he's the weirdo that showed pictures of 1950s porn to his colleagues in the middle of a meeting, then you win the prize. because that's who he was. And he is waging war on education in Oklahoma, which is ironic because Oklahoma has been waging war on education for years, as they are 50th across the board. And, we have people to talk about it. But this guy, Ryan Walters, I jumped ahead a little bit, but Ryan Walters is waging war on history in Oklahoma, but we'll get to that because we had more sound on what Trump's doing. I got down a thread. Just a couple more sounders on what Trump's doing particularly.
In this second term, it's a lot of folks who seem purely driven on ideology, and at times that can lead you down some pretty dangerous places.
What kind of it's essentially a whitewashing of history and a elimination of black history and the history of others as well in this country. What is the danger of this, as you say, as a historian?
Yeah, this is one look at what authoritarianism is. This is just one aspect. This is just one aspect. Okay. Another aspect. And by the way, this is what Trump had to say in 2017 about the museums. Mr. Flip-Flop, Mr. forgets how recording equipment and audio recording equipment works.
And Trump, well, he should know that because the museum is one he visited in 2017 during his first term.
This museum is a beautiful tribute to so many American heroes. It's amazing to see. We did a pretty comprehensive tour, but not comprehensive enough. Solani, I'll be back. I told you that. Because I could stay here for a lot longer, believe me. It's really incredible. This tour was a meaningful reminder of why we have to fight bigotry, intolerance, and hatred in all of its very ugly forms.
It's stunning, right? It's stunning how quickly he will just completely shift his position based on which way the wind is blowing in the culture war right now. Maybe in 2017, he hadn't really nailed down the idea of a complete dictatorship just yet. He hadn't long gamed, I'm going to have to attack American history in general. I'm going to have to attack what it is to be American. I'm going to have to attack and belittle and diminish the history of minorities in this country because I'm going to be going for a full authoritarian regime. He hadn't long gamed it then. He didn't know the attack that he would be waging on the museum in the future. So he gets in front of recording equipment and says things like that. And now he's going to remake the Smithsonian in according to Trump's interpretation of what it is to be an American.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because democracy doesn't defend itself.
All right, I got ahead of myself and mentioned Ryan Walters. I talk very fast, and sometimes I get ahead of myself. It is what it is. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing here, and I appreciate you guys staying with me through my ADHD and all of its iterations. Okay, so I mentioned Ryan Walters, and yes, he's the guy with the creepy 1950s porn, I guess, that he showed at a meeting in front of his colleagues. He's out in front of this America First approach to adjusting, massaging, inserting things into our education system according to his values and American values, his values as a Christian. Oklahoma, who currently sits 50 across the board, now more attacks on their education system by Ryan Walters, the Oklahoma State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Ryan Walters. He is implementing a America First test that he is giving right now to only teachers coming from California and New York if they want to teach in Oklahoma, who needs it, who has one of the biggest dearths in teachers in our country, they need teachers more than anybody just about. Now they have to pass this America First test by Ryan Walters, all the teachers from California and New York who want to come and contribute to the education system in Oklahoma. And this is a 50 question test based on government, religion, and gender. All the valuable stuff that you got to really be dialed in on to be an effective teacher in Oklahoma. Just the important stuff, right, Ryan? Because being up on gender politics, that's where our teachers need to excel. Got to test them on that. You guys, you want to hear some of the test? Ryan Walters, man, this guy's a character. He wants Bibles in the classroom, all sorts of crazy crap. He's a piece of work. But I want to get to what you guys want. You want to hear some of these questions, okay? Now, by the way, this test, it hasn't been finalized, but if you're a teacher from New York and California, you can't come yet. He hopes this test will be done soon. But we got some sample questions. You ready? Now, a lot of you guys are sitting and watching at home, or you're watching in the car, you're listening in the car, rather, or whatever. Some of you may be with some people, but here's the thing. I want you to play along at home. And see if you notice a couple of, problems with these questions. Some of them, no. A couple of them, no. I did well. I put myself in the mind of a white nationalist and what is important to me, and I did well. I was able to assume that role like a pathologist. Just let's see how you do. Okay, don't cheat. No point in it. You're not being held to any standard, and I'm not keeping count, so don't cheat. Question number 1. What are the first 3 words of the Constitution? Is it "In God We Trust," "Life, Liberty, and Happiness," "The United States," or "We the People"? I'll give you a few seconds. That's right. If you said "We the People," you are correct. Question 2, and we hit choppy waters immediately. Why is freedom of religion important to America's identity? That is a completely subjective question. That question is based on how you feel about something. How could this possibly be a prerequisite to be a teacher in Oklahoma? Why is freedom of religion important to America's identity? And now I went out on a limb here because one of the choices were it bans all forms of public worship, it limits religious teaching in public life, it makes Christianity the national religion, and it protects religious choice from government control. I went out on a limb here, and I hoped I was right with it protects religious choice from government control. Thank God I was right on that one. And it wasn't, it makes Christianity the national religion. Although, if it had been that, would you have been shocked? It goes on. What are the 2 parts of Congress? How many senators are there? And this one, maybe you will, maybe you won't get this one right. Why do some states have more representatives than others? They convey a larger geographic area. They have held statehood for a longer period. The number is determined by military presence, or representation is determined by population size. It's population size. You knew that. For now, it could be like, how many devout Christians do you have in your state? How many billionaires do you have in your state? Okay. And by the way, they're not the teachers here from California and New York that are trying to, contribute to the education of our youth in Oklahoma. They're not the only ones being screened. Trump is pushing for screening of immigrants for anti-American views. They're putting forth a huge initiative to screen social media, any other sources they can get their hands on for every immigrant. For any immigrant. So we're not just screening teachers, we're screening immigrants, we're screening everybody. We only want true Americans that hold true American values in this country. That's all we want. Let's hear from some experts about this, specifically the Oklahoma debacle.
So
gets
it's
at
also
that.
true that only 2 states are being targeted, California and New York, which also happen to be among the top performing schools amongst these age groups. So there's a certain level of irony in Oklahoma saying, don't you dare come in here and we're going to give you a test on this, particularly when they are doing so poorly, as Bakari said, 50th, repeatedly and consistently across multiple groups, right, as opposed to California and New York. Not only that, Oklahoma has a teaching shortage, like a dramatic teaching shortage that continues to go up. They have at least 3,000 teachers that are certified to teach in Oklahoma that refuse to teach because of the environment. They are importing teachers from Mexico.
They're importing teachers from Mexico who are also being screened for anti-American views. So they're not getting screened with this America First test. The teachers they're importing from Mexico are getting screened in other ways. Everybody gets screened. Everybody gets screened one way or another. I mean, there it is. There it is. They have to import teachers from Mexico to fill this teacher shortage, and yet they're trying to stiff-arm professional teachers from California and New York over their political views. That's beautiful, Ryan Walters. Well done. You're really serving the youth of this country and your state. Well done. Well done. Bakari Sellers, he had some interesting points on this.
Ryan Walters is failing. He is not good at his job, and he needs to take a listen to what Donald Trump says to people who are not good at their jobs. You're fired. They're 50th in education. In South Carolina, we used to make T-shirts that said, "Thank God for Mississippi." There's only one state that is worse in education than the state of Oklahoma. And so while he's trying to dictate the people that come in his borders to educate the young people in the great state of Oklahoma, they probably need to find another superintendent of education who's not engulfed in scandal. Ryan Walters, where's my camera? Ryan Walters, why don't you focus on being number 45 instead of number 50 in the country?
Yeah. That should be his focus. And he should also focus on locking down his 1950s porn, because that's all over the place as well. It's not just Oklahoma. It's not just Oklahoma. So it's not just our history. It's also our education. And it's not just Oklahoma. It's other places as well. It's other people as well that are beginning to affect what your kids are going to be learning. I hope you align with all of them politically and ideologically, because these people are going to be deciding what your kid learns. People like who? People like Glenn Beck.
It's actual history. I mean, we got something yesterday. We're working on several of these videos that are going to be used in AP classes, right? So this is AP history in high schools.
Yes. I mean, look, so many Americans are learning history through the lens of Howard Zinn. For those who don't know who Howard Zinn is, I think he categorically destroyed the the history classes in America, right? Teaching a perspective. Not all of it was a lie, but it's the footnotes. It's without the greater perspective of what America is.
Okay. Glenn Beck and Prager University are going to be deciding what your kid learns, but we're going to get into that in a second. First, she's over here bashing Howard Zinn. If you don't know, Randy loved this guy. Randy always touted Howard Zinn's History of America. My first couple years into working for her, she bought me a copy and I read it. And it's one of the few books in my adult life. There was a handful of books in my younger life, my more formative years, that kind of shaped how I saw certain aspects of life, you know, by great writers, great books that kind of changed me a little. Very few books as an adult have changed me a little. Howard Zinn's History of America changed how I saw this country once again. Maybe for the final time. Maybe my political stances and values are somewhat based on that book going forward. That's how influential and amazing that book is. And that book got banned in this country because it was dangerous to the establishment. It was dangerous to the moneyed elite. It told the truth of their money and their power and their history and the history of minorities in this country. American Indians, blacks, people from the West Indies, shipped all over this country. I digress. Of course, malignant entity like Prager University would crap on Howard Zinn and his greatness and his great book. Then she's the CEO, by the way. Larissa Street, she's the CEO of Prager. Let me tell you who these people are. And he's talking about, we're going to be able to create some videos that are shown to our youth in part of an educational package. That's right. Prager University is going to be making videos that are used to teach your kids. Who are they? Well, Prager University is a U.S.-based 501c nonprofit media organization founded in 2009 by Dennis Prager and Alan Estrin. Okay, it is not an accredited academic institution. It does not grant degrees nor conduct formal classes. Okay, the organization promotes conservative and capitalist perspectives on a broad array of topics: politics, history, economics, culture, through short, polished videos around 5 minutes. Their self-described goal is to, quote, champion American values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and influence public opinion through digital media. Okay, all right, that's the macro, that's the overview. Right now they're worth about $56 million. That was Marissa Street, the CEO. And they are mostly funded through conservative philanthropists, the Wilkes Brothers, Bradley Foundation, the DeVos family. That's where they get their cash. They feature conservatives on their videos like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, and others. Ugh. Who gets bottom billing to those two? Eek. Now, they claim they have 7 billion views. That's their claim. Okay. Now, here's the ugly part of Prager University. Scholars and fact checkers accuse Prager University of spreading misleading or outright inaccurate content, including on climate change denial, creationism, slavery, fascism, immigration, LGBTQ, and more. Here's the problem. Florida, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Montana, Arizona, and Louisiana have all approved Prager University materials as educational resources, allowing teachers to incorporate them however they see fit into their lessons. They have a hand in the test, the America test in Oklahoma. They have a hand in crafting that. Of course they do. Let me give you just a couple of their special projects. PragerU Kids, a children-focused division producing content criticized for downplaying slavery, colonialism, and addressing sensitive topics in a controversial way. Great. And in 2023, they started up D-Trans, a contentious short film spotlighting individuals who detransitioned, widely criticized as anti-trans propaganda. Because that's the biggest problem facing this country. That is the issue that our teachers need to be well-versed on to be able to effectively teach our youth. D-Trans. That's the critical information our kids need to be getting. Information on people who have detransitioned. 0.01% of the population is the biggest problem facing our youth. Ridiculous. John Ossoff had a few choice things to say about this. I love John Ossoff. You know I'm going to play him every chance I get. Georgia's lucky to have him.
I also encourage all of us to raise our voices. You know, there is not safety in keeping your head down. And I have had leaders in every sector of the economy, every part of a nonprofit world and academia, come into my office for the last 5 or 6 months and tell me that they're terrified, but they're not going to say anything because they don't want a target on their back. They don't need a federal investigation. They don't need to face a targeted effort to defund them. The very fact that I am hearing that in the United States of America, people who oppose public policy decisions that are being made in Washington but are too afraid of retribution from their own government to speak their mind should send a chill down all of our spines. And there is not safety in silence, right? That the university administrators who decided maybe it was just Harvard, maybe it was just Penn, maybe it was just Yale, let's keep our heads down, well, they're now on the chopping block.
Yep. This is what happens if you keep your head down. This is what it looks like. You can't do that. Ossoff sees this for what it is. There was somebody else who saw this for what it is. We're going to play somebody that had a lot of foresight when it came to Trump and his effect on American society, on Trump's effect on who America will be, what Americans' identity will be if Donald Trump holds power. And I'm not even talking about Mr. JD, Mr. Never Trump guy, Mr. Trump is an opiate for the masses. Not even that soothsayer. The 2012 JD, whatever year that was that I played those clips. I mean, he had some foresight, but not that soothsayer. No, not him. Another man that had amazing foresight in 2017.
You compared Donald Trump to a third world dictator yesterday in an interview with the New York Times. How so?
Well, I don't know about a dictator. I said a third world strongman. You know, he's running for president, so no matter what, he won't be a dictator unless our republic completely crumbles, which I don't anticipate it will.
It might.
But yeah, here's what happens in many countries around the world. You have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin America for decades. It's basically the argument he's making that he single-handedly is going to turn the country around. We've never been that kind of country. We have a president. The president is an American citizen who serves for a period of time, constrained by the constitutions and the powers vested in that office. The president works for the people, not the people for the president. And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this, no matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well one way or the other.
That is almost surreal. I want to vote for 2017 Marco. God, where are those Republicans? 2016 Ted Cruz. Trump is the worst thing to happen to America. 2016 Lindsey Graham. He's a dictator. He's a tin pot dictator. He's a wannabe dictator. Marco, 2017. You're going to have to answer to the American people if you fall for Donald Trump's message and ideology. God, where are these Republicans? Little Marco, man, what happened to you? I mean, I almost got goosebumps. It is surreal that Marco Rubio saw it for exactly what it was then.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things, fighting for America one mic drop at a time.
We are laying out to you the formation of Trump's America, Trump's vision for America, the Heritage Foundation's vision of America. If they can break democracy, bad enough, they can hold on to power past the appropriate time. We'll see what that turns into. Okay, we'll see what that looks like. But if they can break American values and history enough, then you won't see a problem with their plan. You won't recognize the inherent evil and danger in the path that they are laying out before us. But it's not just the path before us that Trump is interested in controlling and subverting. It's also what happened behind us. Trump's retribution has been personified in the form of one Ed Martin. Okay? Ed Martin. I want to introduce you to Ed Martin because you're going to be hearing more from him. Okay? And you're going to have to hold enough disdain and ire in your heart for yet another Trump sycophant. Do you have enough room between your hate for Bondi, your hate for Anthony and RFK and Pete Hegseth and Caroline Leavitt? Do you have enough ire and disdain left in your heart for Ed Martin? I hope so. I hope so. He served as chief of staff to Missouri Governor Matt Blunt, chaired the Missouri Republican Party. He co-authored the conservative case for Trump. He's a frequent right-wing media contributor, tries to be controversial. He worked for Russian state media at one point. That's charming. He was a prominent supporter of the Stop the Steal, defended multiple January 6th defendants. It's just getting better and better, right? Just getting better and better. Well, he was named the pardon attorney, appointed May 14th, 2025, here under Trump. And his role is to review outgoing pardons and review pardons that went out under the Biden administration. Here's the retribution part. One of his hats is pardon attorney. He gets to dig into whether Biden's pardons were constitutional, legal, all of that. That's fun. He also reviews pardons going forward. He's also now the director of the DOJ's Weaponization Working Group. He is Trump's retribution. They call him the weaponization czar. That's his nickname. And I'm just going to give you a couple of his the stuff on his plate right now. Just a couple things he's working on right now. He's reviewing all of Biden's prior pardons. I told you that, with a particular attention to any that might have been politically motivated. He is to reevaluate all of Biden's pardons during his presidency. He's also, as leading the weaponization working group, he's spearheading investigations into Russiagate probe involving the Capitol Police prosecutions. He's going after notable individuals like Andrew Weissman, Mary McCord, Aaron Zelinsky, and ex-FBI agent Charles McGonigal. So he's busy. He's a busy dude. He is Trump's retribution, and he's on one. And he found a very soft landing spot with Maria Bartiromo. Of course he did. This chick. She will placate, patronize, give a forum to absolutely anybody, and she knows how to play this game. She's good at what she does. Fox loves her, and she loves to give a forum to people like Ed Martin.
Doing at DOJ, and all we're doing across the government is saying, get the truth out, and then, by the way, let's hold people accountable, and that's exactly what's going on. So when Bill Pulte sends a criminal referral over to us, and he says Letitia James and Adam Schiff, and by the way, both their lawyers have come out and talked publicly about that criminal referral, so you can talk to them about the specifics, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do is we're going to follow the facts. Every American that has a mortgage or has other documents they sign has to follow the law. We're going to go to the very bottom of the facts, and if somebody did something wrong, we're not only going to hold them accountable, we're also going to look at everything else that they've been doing, because when you're a liar, you lie not just on one thing. When you're a cheater, you cheat not just on one thing. When you're doing corruption, you generally don't just do it on one thing. So that's what we're asked to do as prosecutors, and that's what we're doing.
And that is what they're doing. Make no mistake, that is what they are doing. 2 investigations against Letitia alone. Now, we talked about the Adam Schiff thing, right? The mortgage loan fraud that was never fraud, and Schiff laughs in the face of and has gone absolutely nowhere. We talked about that. He mentioned that. All right, a little bit of retribution. He was crucial, influential. He was one of the linchpins of the impeachment of Donald Trump, right? He was out in front of it. He was very vocal and a visible leader in the impeachment of Trump. So that's why they're going after Schiff, and other reasons. He hates Shifty Schiff because Shifty Schiff tells the truth about Donald Trump and does something about it. So he hates Schiff, but he's going after Letitia James as well. Now, there is a grand jury probe in New York looking into her investigation of the Trump organization. She investigated the Trump organization, and B, the NRA. That's right. So now New York is investigating her investigation of their allies. And I don't mean New York as a blue state. I mean the DOJ. The DOJ, the weaponized, he says it himself, he's the weaponization czar. The weaponized DOJ is now going after her in New York for those 2 investigations. Also, she is being looked into for mortgage loan fraud in Virginia. That's another investigation. Her lawyer says these are, quote, baseless and long discredited allegations. But Columbo over here, he couldn't help it going out to the scene of the crime. This guy's sniffing around. This guy, Ed Martin, look at this guy.
I'm just sure there's like the crack building. Is there
That is Ed Martin and company in front of Letitia James' apartment.
Yeah, I'm interested because usually the houses like this.
Tell me why you're here.
We're interested in the houses.
You're not interested in the houses.
Just one more
You
thing.
know who lives here.
Is this like Second Empire?
It's just a track house. That's what all of these things are.
I know, but when was it built, do you think?
They're built before 1899.
Look at all those layers in the middle of August. Look at that
Why are you
overcoat.
being so disingenuous about what you're here for? You're not here about the houses. You're here because of who lives here. It's my neighborhood. It's my block. I have a right to know what you guys look like. Your official capacity.
I'm just happy to be on a block looking at houses.
I'm just happy to be on the block. Columbo there's just happy to be on the block looking for houses. Can I tell you something? Nothing is just black and white. There's nuance. There's nuance. You cannot judge a book by its cover. In this case, not all Karens are bad. He pulls up to Letitia James's house and Super Karen shows up immediately. Who are you? Why are you here? This is my neighborhood. I want to talk to your manager. She was all over it, and Mr. Weaponization Czar was completely unequipped to deal with her. His little helper, all 6'4", 280 pounds of him, was getting manhandled by Karen on the street. Not all Karens are bad. Some are here to do good. Some are here to do good. You remember that. Next time you hear somebody asking to see somebody's manager, maybe you need to get both sides of the story. So, yeah, that's Columbo there lurking around Letitia James's house. And he had already sent a letter. He had already sent a letter to James's lawyer requesting she resign. Okay? Just before he showed up at her house. Ellie Honig, CNN's senior legal analyst, said, quote, "This is a criminal investigation, not social media. A stunt like that might get clicks, but it's patently inappropriate for a prosecutor to do it, and it certainly will give James and her attorney a basis to oppose any indictment, to argue it was prejudicial to the jury pool, and that an indictment was brought in bad faith." So not only was it a bad look and you got your butt kicked by Karen, it might have compromised your case. Well, great to see that the weapons czar position was filled with such a competent guy. I mean, honestly, that makes me feel a little better about whatever it is he's doing. He's clearly incompetent and a little weird. And not equipped to deal with Karen. And I feel a little better about the whole situation after seeing him lurking around. You want to hear more from this guy? No? Well, I'm playing it anyway. You got to hear what these people say, man. You got to hear from them. You got to know what you're dealing with.
Me too.
Well, let's talk about January 6th, because you are also investigating January 6th, which was also part of this 10 years of scandals. What have you learned?
Well, again, Attorney General Pam Bondi let us loose on this, and there's a group of us working on January 6th. What we've learned is that the federal government, the Department of Justice, but other aspects, targeted these citizens. They basically turned government on to make the hoax work. So I'm not talking about somebody that pushes a cop. That's a charge you can look at in charge. I'm talking about that the FBI and others were putting American citizens on terrorism watch lists. They were auditing their IRS tax returns. They were targeting the American people. They were taking massive amounts of resources and moving them from fighting, child trafficking and fighting real corruption and saying we have to move everybody to look at the Capitol siege. It was a political hoax that was driven by Garland, Lisa Monaco, and others.
So now it's not enough It's not enough that Trump pardoned 1,600 insurrectionists whose actions were all caught on camera, investigated, and prosecuted. Nope, not enough that they all walk. And I have gone through the litany of crimes that has been committed by some of these people since their pardoning. Litany. A lot of them super skeevy, super creepy. You know what I'm talking about. But now we have to go after the people who legally prosecuted insurrectionists. This is what I'm saying. He is Trump's retribution personified. He is the avatar of retribution. He's a supervillain. He's a supervillain. He has been given a blank check, legally speaking, to absolutely go after everybody. And that's exactly what he's doing. It's exactly what he's doing. He continues about this January 6th. He continues.
Real quick, what about the January 6th committee? Did they destroy evidence? Is there criminality there?
Of course, we're all in that too. And trust me, a lot of people did not get a pardon that were involved in the select committee, and they ought to be keeping an eye on their mailbox, because there's a lot to be asked about.
And the pardons that were given out were done by an auto pen. Are they legitimate?
Well, yeah, I'm the pardon attorney, so I'm in that too. I can tell you we're investigating how the pardons were granted. It was not like anything in the history of America what not Joe Biden, his staffers did, not just with the auto pen, but with faking him out on the memos. More to come, Maria. I'm telling you, Pam Bondi has let us loose, and when this comes out, it'll take the whole of these people's hoaxes down, and we're doing it bit by bit, and it's fantastic. It's a great privilege.
Unbelievable.
Man, Maria just took the reins off. Go, Ed. What do you want to say? What other hoaxes? What else? What? Auto pen. Hoax over here. Obama. Hillary. She just let the reins. Let the reins go. Just let go. Ed Martin, ladies and gentlemen. The avatar of retribution. A supervillain. That's what he is. He's a supervillain. And he's going after everybody. And he's going after every hoax. This is the America that Trump envisions. This is it. We're laying it out for you. Piece by piece. How ironic the weaponization czar's job is to weaponize the DOJ. How ironic is that?
You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line. Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
So yeah, this is Donald Trump's America. I think we laid it out, some of the more underlying and possibly more dangerous ways. A Gavin Newsom can stiff arm the federalization of the National Guard, and the courts can stiff arm some of this immigration policy. They are trying to stiff arm the tariff policy. Trump coddling up to these dictators, that's more of a him thing than an us thing. A lot of this is temporary, being fought. The other stuff, erasing our history, poisoning our children's minds, weaponizing our Justice Department. These are things that are going to be a lot harder to undo. These are the things that are going to have a long-lasting effect. And by the way, he's revoked the security clearance of 37 current officials. He's threatening to withhold funding, by the way. Russ Vought, remember that Russ Vought? Now he's in charge of our budget. They are supposed to disclose all of their budgetary decision-making. They're hiding it. Russ Vaught's basically giving you the finger. He says it's sensitive information and it would compromise, the security of our country. So we can't really disclose to you who we're holding hostage and who we're not. Tons of funding. Not just on a macro level, but a micro level. They are weaponizing our budget now, too. This is what Trump's America looks like. And Greg Abbott is one of his greatest generals in this culture war. I honestly, his two best warriors that are on the front lines. We're not talking about the shills that get in front of cameras and speak on behalf of his administration and the decisions that are being made. We're talking about front lines. We're talking DeSantis, who is also pushing forward with all of his despicable changes in his education, the stuff that was brought up about a year ago, trying to diminish the black historical perspective and adjusting what's being taught in schools. Well, they're doubling down. Right on the heels of Oklahoma, DeSantis and Abbott. Abbott, whose tactics here in the Texas House are getting dirtier and dirtier. The Democrats have returned, okay? We talked about them breaking quorum, leaving the state. They have returned, okay? But since they've returned, it has gotten uglier.
Democratic lawmakers are back in Texas, but Representative Nicole Collier spent the night on the floor of the state house. She refused a Republican demand to have a state law enforcement officer escort her around the clock in order to leave the Capitol grounds.
I refused to sign the permission slip to be able to leave the Capitol. I disagree with that authoritarian tactic.
Two other Democrats joined her in the House overnight. Republicans now appear to have a clear path to a redistricting plan that could bring them 5 more seats in Congress.
So they now have to sign a permission slip to leave the House. A permission slip. And Collier said, I'm doing no such thing, and she slept right there on the House floor. And obviously, the Dems are all in. They're completely behind it. Obviously. How behind it are they? Let's take a look.
Meeting tomorrow for the first time since the Democrats returned to the state, but they're not happy with the rules Republicans have set in place for them to keep them from leaving again.
Yeah, they have to be monitored 24/7 by DPS trooper, and if they choose to leave the Capitol building, well, they must sign a permission slip. But Texas Democrats not going down without a fight this afternoon as a sign of solidarity. Several of them ripping their permission
That is
slips, saying their
Malia
rights will not be
Plessa
trampled
right there
on.
in front. Whose house? Our house. I love it. I love it. Rep. Penny Morales said, yesterday I left in custody and I came back in custody because I stand with Nicole Collier and Jean Wu. This is illegitimate. This is a wrongful use of power and I will not condone it. I don't want to be part of setting a very bad and low precedent of future legislators. The Dems are being very outspoken about this. They are against it. Okay, they are against it. What does Abbott have to say? Now, remember, it's the Republicans that called this 30-day special session because of a flooding disaster, then started the session with redistricting. It is then the Republicans, after the Democrats broke quorum, that said, we may get the FBI involved. We're going to track them down. We're going to arrest them. We're going to drag them back. Now it is the Republicans forcing them to sign a permission slip and leave the House in custody. And in the face of all that, let's hear what Greg Abbott has to say.
And so what the Democrats have done is disgraceful and potentially illegal. I'll tell you this much. If California dares to try to squeeze out more Republicans, there are going to be lawsuits that will overturn that. What I can tell you in the state of Texas, the 5 Republican seats that we are adding, they are going to withstand legal challenges, and those will be Republican members added to the United States Congress.
So it's the Dems that are being disgraceful. It's the Dems that are being disgraceful, is it? I mean, if you want to be a general in Trump's army, in the face of all reason and facts, you got to be able to come out and say things like that with conviction. That's what makes a Trump general. That's what makes Greg Abbott a shining example of Trumpism. We've got a list of facts, things that actually happened. Every bit of it's untrue. Here's my truth, my personal truth, my facts. And by the way, they're going to be voting on that today. Jean Wu tried to adopt an amendment in the bill saying, yeah, we'll all vote for this redistricting if Pam Bondi releases every single bit of documentation and records on Jeffrey Epstein and makes it available on a website. it got rejected. How about that?
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.